Hey everyone, this is Jungkook. Before we start, I want to know where you're listening from. Drop your country in the comments below. I'm serious when I say this. When I get married someday, remember this message. Don't save the video for clicks or drama. Don't turn it into a headline. Just remember the feeling, not the fame. Because this is not the version of me you see in music videos or concerts. This is not the confident performer who never misses a beat. This is me trying to say something I've been holding inside for years, something that scares me to say out loud. Maybe this message will help someone who's struggling between love and duty, between family and the weight of expectations, between the person you are on stage and the one you become when the lights go out. I've spent most of my life performing. Since I was 15, I've been standing in front of millions, learning how to smile even when my chest felt heavy, learning how to give people joy even when I was running out of my own, and I don't regret it. BTS gave me everything, my brothers, my dream, my meaning, but as I've grown older, something has changed in me. Fame doesn't feel like it used to. Success doesn't hit the same. I look at RM, at how he speaks about peace and reflection, and I think maybe he's been carrying wisdom I didn't understand before. I watched Jin laugh, even from far away during his service, and I realize how much he values presence, not performance. I see Suga staying quiet but saying everything with one sentence. I see J-Hope shining like a light even when the world goes dark. I see Taehyung's way of protecting his peace. I see Jimin the way he stays soft in a world that's so hard, and I start wondering if I've been chasing the wrong things. I always thought achievement was the proof of love, that if I worked harder, sang better, built something greater, people would know how much I cared. But the truth is, sometimes work becomes a shield. You bury yourself in schedules and rehearsals because it's easier than facing what's missing inside. You tell yourself, it's okay, I'll fix things later, but later never comes. The truth is, I've lost moments with the people I love because I kept thinking there would always be more time. More time to see my parents. More time to talk to the members without cameras around. More time to just be me, not Jungkook from BTS, but Jeon Jungkook, the son, the friend, the man. And now, when people talk about marriage, about settling down, I feel this strange fear that I built a life so public that I don't know how to be private anymore. I don't know if I can give someone the real version of me, the version that doesn't have to perform, doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to prove anything. What if I get married and still feel like I'm living for everyone but myself? What if I forget how to just be? I've seen what fame does to people. I've seen how easy it is to confuse admiration with love, attention with connection. And sometimes I wonder if one day I stand in front of someone I love and say, I do, will I actually know what I'm promising? Marriage isn't a concert. You can't rehearse it. There's no lighting team, no encore, no edit. It's just presence. Real, messy, human presence. And I'm scared of that because I've been trained to give perfection, not presence. I've been trained to hide the parts of me that tremble. There's something I never said before, not even in interviews. There was a time, a few years ago, when I almost gave up on love completely. Every time I tried to get close to someone, I'd find a reason to pull back the schedule, the pressure, the idea that love would ruin the image. I told myself I was protecting the group, protecting the fans, protecting everything we built. But deep down, I was just protecting myself from being known too deeply. Because being known means being seen. And being seen means being vulnerable. Jimin once told me during a long flight, you can't always live like the world is watching. Sometimes you have to let someone see you when no one else is looking. I laughed at him then, but he was right. Every member has taught me something about love. RM taught me that love is patience, that not everything needs to happen now. Jin taught me that love is laughter, that even heavy hearts can find light. Suga taught me that love is honesty, saying what hurts before it rots inside you. J-Hope taught me that love is giving, not the easy kind, but the kind that costs something real. Taehyung taught me that love is silence. Sometimes it's not words, but presence. And Jimin taught me that love is forgiveness. And that's what I'm learning about myself. I've been so afraid to be loved for who I am that I kept showing the version of me that I thought people wanted. But when the concert ends, when the plane lands, when the fans go home, that's when I realize how much noise I've built around me just to avoid hearing my own thoughts. I used to think that loneliness was a punishment, but now I think it's an invitation to finally look at yourself, to face the person behind the applause. There's one thing I regret deeply, something I hope I never repeat when I get married. I once let someone slip away, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to stay. I was always running, always busy, always building. I told myself I'd make time, but the truth is I didn't. She didn't leave with anger. She just stopped expecting me to show up. I remember one night she said, "I don't want gifts or grand gestures. I just want to feel like you're actually here." And I wasn't. Not really. I was in the room, but my mind was somewhere else on the next recording, the next project, the next thing I thought mattered more than presence. I lost her, not in one big moment, but in 1,000 small absences. And that's what breaks you. Not the shouting, not the ending, but the quiet fading. I've seen the same pattern with my family. I tell my mom I'll visit soon. I tell my dad I'll call later. I tell my brothers in BTS that we'll hang out after the next event, after the next comeback, after the next. And before I know it, another year passes. We see each other on stage, but not in life. We talk in group chats, but not in person. And I wonder how many more next times can I afford before people stop waiting. If I ever get married, I want it to be different. I want to be there, not just physically, but emotionally, completely. I don't want my future wife to say, "You're here, but you're not really here." I don't want to build a life that looks perfect on camera, but feels empty in private. I don't want to look at my children one day and realize they grew up around my absence. I want to learn to stop choosing fame over family, success over silence, applause over authenticity, because the truth is your work will never love you back. Your fame will never hold you when you're scared. Your achievements won't talk to you when you can't sleep. The things that matter are small presence, connection, love. The kind of moments you can't post, can't stream, can't trend. When I think about BTS, I think about the times we weren't performing, the nights we stayed up in hotel rooms laughing until morning. The quiet drives, the shared meals, that's what lasts. Not the awards, not the records, the memories. The moments when we were just 7 men trying to stay human in a world that demands perfection. I owe those guys everything, and I hope they know that. I hope they know that no matter where life takes us, no matter who we love, or who we marry, or where we end up, I'll always carry them in my story. Because BTS isn't just a group, it's a heartbeat, it's family. If you're watching this and you're chasing something, a dream, a career, a version of yourself you think will finally make you enough, just remember, the people who love you don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be present. Don't postpone your real life waiting for some future where you finally have time. That future doesn't come. Make time now. Tell people you love them now. Sit with them now. Because one day, even the brightest lights fade. And when they do, You'll want someone sitting next to you, not watching from afar. I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I'm still learning how to balance it, fame and peace, love and purpose. But when I get married, I want that marriage to be built on truth, not image. I want her to see the real me, the quiet me, the clumsy me, the insecure me, the one who doesn't always have the answers. And I want to see her the same way, not as perfection, but as presence. That's what love should be. So, if this video still exists when that day comes, when I finally get married, don't make it about the wedding. Don't turn it into a headline or a clip. Just remember what I said right now, in this quiet moment. Remember that love isn't about grand gestures or public vows. It's about choosing each other again and again, especially when the cameras are off. If you take anything from me, take this. Don't wait to live your real life. Don't wait for the stage to end. Don't wait for the world to give you permission to love, because love, real love, doesn't wait. So, if someday I disappear from the spotlight and live a quiet life, know that it's not because I gave up on music. It's because I finally learned how to listen to the music that's been playing inside me all along. And when that day comes, when I get married, when I settle down, when the noise fades, remember this message, not for clicks, not for drama, but for your own heart. Be where you are, be who you are, and love like it's the only thing that will outlast you, because it is. Sometimes I think about what love really means when you've lived most of your life on camera. When every smile, every tear, every gesture becomes content, it's hard to know what's real anymore. I've spent so many years trying to make other people feel something that I forgot how to feel for myself. I don't mean that in a dramatic way. It's just the truth. There are nights when I come home after a show, the crowd still echoing in my ears, and I sit in silence, and it's like the silence doesn't recognize me. It feels foreign, almost heavy, like the room itself is asking, "Who are you?" when no one's watching. The truth is, I don't always know. I've learned how to be Jungkook, the performer, the perfectionist, the man who never misses a note. But the version of me that just exists, the version that isn't rehearsed, that's the one I'm still trying to meet. When I imagine marriage, I don't see fancy lights or beautiful halls. I see that silence. I see two people who can sit in it and not feel empty. And I wonder if I'm ready for that kind of silence, the kind where nothing is performing, where love doesn't need music or applause to feel real. People think fame makes you strong, but fame can also make you fragile. You start believing the version of yourself that others create for you. You start measuring your worth by how loudly people cheer. And when the cheering stops, when the lights go out, you find out if you actually like the person standing in the dark. I've had to learn that lesson again and again, not just with love, but with myself. There were days when I thought if I wasn't producing something, if I wasn't working, if I wasn't trending, I was failing. But failure isn't always about losing. Sometimes it's about not pausing long enough to notice what you're losing along the way. Taehyung once said something to me during a shoot in winter. We were both exhausted, sitting in a van with the heater barely working. He looked out the window and said quietly, "Do you ever feel like life is passing while we're too busy living it for others?" I didn't answer right away, but that question stayed. Because that's exactly what it feels like sometimes. Like we're living life in public, performing existence, while the private moments slip away. That's why this message matters to me. Because when I get married, I don't want it to be another performance. I don't want it to be content. I want it to be life real, flawed, human. When I was younger, I used to think marriage was this magical thing that would happen when I was ready. I thought it meant having it all together, being perfect, being successful enough to deserve someone's love. But now I realize no one is ever ready. You don't wait for perfection. You build something honest out of imperfection. That's what love is. That's what I didn't understand before. Suga taught me something without even saying it. He's always calm, always introspective. There was this one night during tour when everyone else had gone to bed and he was sitting alone writing. I asked him what he was working on. He said, "Nothing important. Just something I need to get out of my head before it owns me." That hit me hard. Because that's what love and honesty are, getting things out before they own you. Before they eat away at you quietly. I've been guilty of holding too much in feelings, thoughts, guilt, fear. Maybe that's why this message feels like a confession. Jin always told me to slow down. He'd joke about how I rush into everything: food, rehearsals, even emotions. He once said, "If you keep running, love won't be able to catch up to you." I laughed it off, but he was right. I run through everything. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's habit. Maybe it's the only way I know how to deal with the noise. But love, real love, doesn't chase. It waits. And if you're not still enough to meet it halfway, you'll miss it every time. There was a night years ago when RM and I had a talk that changed me. We were sitting in a hotel lobby after practice, both too tired to move. He said, "One day people will cheer for us like we're gods, and one day they'll move on to someone else. But the people we love, they'll remember the small things, the way we showed up, the way we made them feel seen." I didn't fully get it back then, but now I do. The world remembers success. The heart remembers presence. And I think that's what scares me most about marriage, that I might not know how to show up fully without the safety net of performance. It's easy to show love in a music video. It's easy to write about heartbreak in a song. It's harder to look someone in the eyes in the middle of an ordinary day and say, "I'm here. I see you. I choose you." No lyrics, no melody, just truth. When I imagine my future wife, I don't imagine perfection. I imagine someone who knows how to sit in the quiet with me. Someone who doesn't see me as Jungkook, the idol, but as the boy who still gets nervous when he speaks too honestly. Someone who understands that I'm not always strong, that sometimes I break inside, even when I look composed. I want that kind of love, the one that doesn't need proof, the one that feels like home. I know some people might not understand this. Some fans might feel hurt when they hear the word marriage coming from my mouth. But love doesn't mean betrayal. It means growth. It means learning how to hold space for yourself and others. The same love that built BTS, the same love that made me who I am, that's the love I want to bring into whatever future I have. Because BTS taught me what family feels like, what loyalty really means, what forgiveness sounds like in the middle of chaos. We fought, cried, laughed, broken down, and lifted each other again. That's what I want in marriage, that same kind of friendship, that same kind of home. Sometimes I wonder if marriage will be the first time I truly learn what it means to live for myself, not for an audience. I don't want to be remembered as someone who only lived on stage. I want to be remembered as someone who dared to love fully even after being seen by the whole world. I want to prove to myself that it's possible to give everything to music and still keep a heart big enough to love one person deeply. I think about J-Hope when I say that, because he's the one who always reminded us to love ourselves, not just our success. He used to tell me, "Don't let the mirror lie to you. You're more than what you see." That's something I'll carry forever. Because marriage isn't about completing yourself, it's about sharing what's already whole. So when I get married, if you see that day, don't think of it as the end of something. Think of it as proof that I finally understood what life was really about. Not fame, not applause, not perfection. Just love, just connection, just being. And maybe that's what I'm still trying to learn. How to be, how to stand still, how to stop running long enough to let life catch up to me. That's what I want my future wife to see. Not the performer, not the perfectionist, but the man who finally stopped hiding behind the music long enough to listen to the silence and say, I'm home. There's something strange about growing up under lights that never turn off. You start believing the glow means safety, that as long as people are watching, you'll never disappear. But the truth is, the brighter it gets, the easier it becomes to lose sight of yourself. I've lived most of my life surrounded by cameras, cheers, lenses, waiting to capture every gesture. It feels like I've been living in a glass room, admired, loved, but never fully touched. And that's why I'm scared of what love really means outside that glass. Sometimes I wonder what kind of husband I'd be. Would I still wake up early, thinking about work before her? Would I still check messages from the label before saying good morning? Would I still cancel plans because something came up? I used to think being dependable meant never stopping, but now I think it means something else, showing up when it matters, even when no one else will ever see it. That's what I missed in the past. I thought love needed grand gestures, but it's really about small, quiet ones, answering a call, keeping a promise, being there when you said you would. The older I get, the more I think about the guys. Each one of them taught me something about how to love better. Namjoon taught me about steadiness, how to carry peace even when the world is shaking. Yoongi taught me that it's okay to be quiet when words don't help. Jin showed me that laughter can fix almost anything if you mean it. Hoseok reminded me that warmth doesn't need an audience to shine. Taehyung showed me that silence can hold meaning deeper than sentences. And Jimin taught me what forgiveness feels like when it comes from someone who still believes in you after seeing you at your worst. I think about that a lot, being loved, even when you fail to show up perfectly. That's what real connection feels like. It's not the version of you that stands under spotlights. It's the one that falls apart in the dark. And I hope when I marry, I can give that same kind of love back. The kind that doesn't leave when things get quiet. The kind that forgives before it understands. There was a night a few years ago, after a show in LA, when everything hit me all at once. I was sitting in the hotel room, scrolling through photos, trying to feel proud, trying to convince myself that the exhaustion meant something. And suddenly I realized I didn't know who to call just to talk. Not to plan, not to work, not to solve something, just talk. It hit me like a wave. I built a whole universe of noise, and I was standing in the center of it, completely alone. I think that's when I started dreaming about a different kind of life. One where home wasn't a hotel, where love wasn't something you scheduled between rehearsals. I've been thinking a lot about what kind of life I want to build when this chapter slows down. I still love music. I'll always love it. But I don't want it to be the only way I exist. I want mornings where I wake up without alarms, evenings where I cook for someone, days where I don't feel guilty for resting. I want to walk down the street holding someone's hand without wondering who's watching. I want to love privately, quietly, deeply, not as a headline, not as a story, but as a life. When I see how fans react to the idea of me getting married someday, I understand their feelings. It's not anger, it's fear of losing something they grew up with. But I want them to know they're part of this too. ARMY isn't just an audience. They've been part of every step, every version of me. I don't want to leave anyone behind. I just want to grow into someone who can love without losing himself. Maybe that's what this message is really about: permission. Giving myself permission to be human, to make choices that don't please everyone, to live without explanation, to love without apology. There's a story I've never told before. During the Love Yourself era, I had a moment backstage that changed how I saw everything. We had just finished a performance. The crowd was deafening, the lights blinding, and for a few seconds, everything froze. It was like time stopped, and I was standing in the middle of that chaos thinking, is this all there is? Not because it wasn't beautiful, it was, but because I suddenly felt this ache for something I couldn't name. Something beyond applause, something human. That feeling never left. I think that's why marriage feels both terrifying and beautiful to me. It's the one thing you can't fake. You can't edit it. You can't stage it. You either show up or you lose it. And I don't want to lose it again. I've lost too many moments already with my family, my friends, myself. I don't want to keep choosing the version of me that everyone claps for while ignoring the one who just wants to sit beside someone and feel understood. When I get married, I hope it's not because I'm trying to fill a void, but because I finally learned to live from fullness. I hope I've learned to be honest enough to say, I need you, without feeling weak. I hope I've learned to stay when things get uncomfortable instead of running to the next distraction. I hope I've learned that being loved doesn't mean being flawless. It means being known completely and still chosen. Sometimes I look at my youngs and I see glimpses of the kind of man I want to be. The way Namjoon carries responsibility, the way Yoongi listens more than he speaks, the way Jin always finds joy in small things. I see how Hoseok protects peace like it's sacred, how Taehyung holds loyalty like it's oxygen, how Jimin loves with his whole soul even when it hurts. I want to bring all of that into the man I'll become for someone one day. Because they've shown me that love isn't about who shines the brightest, it's about who stays the longest. If this video still exists when I get married, don't save it because it's emotional. Save it because it's real. Because maybe someone out there needs to hear that love doesn't ruin you, neglect does. Distance does. Fear does. But love, real love, heals. It builds. It teaches you how to come home to yourself again. And when that day comes, when you see me standing next to the person I choose, don't think of it as goodbye. Think of it as me finally living the message we've been singing all along. Love yourself, then love others. That's the order. That's the truth. I'm still learning it. I'll probably be learning it for the rest of my life. But if you've been with me this long, if you've seen me through the noise and the light, I hope you'll stay with me when it gets quiet too. Because that's where I'll finally be. Not running, not performing, just living. And when I look back one day, I hope I can say this without regret, that I didn't just build a career, I built a life worth loving. There are nights when I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, and I start replaying everything that's brought me here, all the faces, the moments, the choices. I think about my parents first. About how they've carried me long before the world knew my name. My mom's voice, always calm but strong, telling me to eat, to rest, to be careful. My dad's silence that always meant love, even when he didn't say much. They never asked me to be perfect. They just wanted me to be happy. And somehow, that's the one thing I've always struggled to define. What does happiness really mean when you've achieved everything you once dreamed of? When you've stood on stages in front of oceans of people chanting your name, and yet you still wake up wondering what your heart is chasing. Sometimes I wonder if my parents ever imagined this life for me, this whirlwind of fame, this constant movement, this version of their son who belongs to the world more than to them. I think about how many dinners I missed, how many birthdays I forgot, How many times they probably sat watching me on TV while wishing I was home instead. There's a kind of guilt that doesn't go away, the guilt of success that costs intimacy. And when I think about marriage, I don't want to repeat that pattern. I don't want to become the kind of husband or father who loves deeply, but shows up rarely. When I talk to the members about family, we always end up quiet. We've lived together for so long that we've become one. But we all know someday things will shift. Someday we'll each have our own paths, our own families, our own mornings. I used to be scared of that thought. The idea of BTS not being in the same room every day felt like losing a part of myself. But lately, I think I'm starting to see it differently. Love doesn't disappear when distance comes. It transforms. It grows into something deeper, something that doesn't need proximity to stay real. If I ever have a family of my own, I want to teach them what BTS taught me, that love is teamwork, that there's beauty in showing up for others even when you're tired, that forgiveness is stronger than pride. We've had our fights, our misunderstandings, our silences, but every single time we found our way back because we knew the bond was bigger than the ego. That's the kind of love I want in my marriage. Not perfect harmony, but the courage to come back after every storm. There's this moment I remember vividly during one of our earliest tours. It was late, maybe 2 in the morning, and we'd all just finished practice. Everyone was exhausted. Taehyung was lying on the floor, humming some random tune. Jimin was sitting with his head down. RM was rereading notes for the next day. I looked around the room, and for a second, everything felt still. We weren't idols. We weren't global artists. We were just 7 boys who had no idea what tomorrow would bring, but we had each other. That's what love looks like, showing up in exhaustion, choosing to keep going together even when no one's watching. Sometimes I think about what it would be like if we all had families. If one day our kids met and grew up together. It's a strange but warm thought, like imagining BTS in another lifetime, reborn through laughter and love. Maybe we'll all meet again in some small cafe, older, quieter, smiling at how wild life once was. Maybe our wives will laugh together, teasing us about who aged better. Maybe our children will run around not knowing that their fathers once carried the world's attention. That thought makes me feel peace, because it means everything we're doing now, all the noise, all the chaos, might one day lead to quiet happiness. But it's not easy to imagine settling down when you're part of something so big. Sometimes I feel torn between who I am to the world and who I am to myself. Between Jungkook the artist and Jungkook the human. Between the boy who lives for applause and the man who longs for stillness. Marriage, for me, feels like the bridge between those two. A place where I can finally be both loved for what I do and loved for who I am. I think about Army often, about how they've seen me grow from a teenager into a man, how they've carried me through every version of myself. Sometimes I worry that marriage will feel like betrayal to them, like I'm closing a door they helped open. But I want them to know something from my heart. You are part of this journey too. Every lesson I've learned about love, loyalty, and empathy, it's because of you. You've taught me that real love doesn't ask for ownership. It celebrates freedom. You've shown me that support doesn't fade when someone changes. It grows with them. If one day you see me getting married, don't see it as me leaving. See it as me becoming the kind of man your love allowed me to be. The kind who's no longer afraid of being known. The kind who can finally give love back to someone in the way you've given it to me for years. Selflessly, fiercely, endlessly. There's a word that keeps echoing in my mind lately. Presence. I used to think love was about emotion, but now I think it's about attention. Being truly there, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's what I want my marriage to be. Presence. To wake up and not rush away. To listen fully. To make time instead of excuses. To look someone in the eyes and not through them. Namjoon once said during a quiet night, "The most beautiful moments are the ones that never get posted." And he's right. The world sees the highlights, but life happens in the spaces between the small gestures, the shared silences, the inside jokes that no one else would understand. That's the kind of love I want to build. A life made of moments too precious to share publicly. I know not everything lasts forever. Fame doesn't, youth doesn't, even time with each other is fleeting. But the meaning we create, that's what endures. So if I ever disappear from the spotlight, don't think I've vanished. It just means I've found somewhere I belong, somewhere I don't need applause to feel alive. And maybe that's what this whole message is really about. Learning to let life change you. Learning to let love mature you. Learning that sometimes stepping away from the stage isn't an ending, it's a return. If you remember one thing from this, let it be this. Love isn't a performance, it's a presence. And when I get married, that's the only stage I want to stand on. There's something about fame that no one prepares you for. They tell you it's the dream, the lights, the applause, the cameras flashing like stars. And for a while, it really feels that way. Every stage, every performance, every scream from the crowd makes you feel invincible. But what no one tells you is how quiet it gets when you walk off stage. How the echo of your own name can start to sound lonely. How sometimes when the world is shouting for you, you can't even hear your own thought. I spent so many years being seen, but very few being known. People see the version of me they want: confident, untouchable, unstoppable. But behind all that, I'm just human. I have fears that don't go away when the music stops. I have moments where I question everything, if I'm enough, if I deserve the love I get, if I've given enough love back. And sometimes in the middle of all that noise, I just wish someone could look at me and see through it. Not the fame, not the perfection, just me. There's a strange loneliness that comes with being everywhere and nowhere at once. You travel the world, but you don't belong anywhere. You meet thousands of faces, but none of them really know your story. You give everything on stage, but when you go back to your hotel room, it's just silence again. That's why real love scares me. Because it means letting someone walk into that silence. It means taking off the armor that fame gives you and saying, "This is who I am when no one's watching. Will you still stay?" There was a night during the Love Yourself tour, I'll never forget it. We just finished one of the biggest shows we'd ever done. The energy was insane. I walked backstage, smiling, still sweating, still feeling that rush. Everyone was congratulating each other, laughing, high-fiving, but then I went to my dressing room, closed the door, and suddenly everything went quiet. I looked in the mirror, and it was like seeing a stranger. The makeup, the sweat, the exhaustion, but mostly the emptiness behind the eyes. That's when it hit me. I was surrounded by love, but starving for connection. When I talk about marriage, I'm not just talking about romance. I'm talking about partnership. Someone who meets you where the noise ends. Someone who doesn't need you to perform. Who can sit beside you in silence and make that silence feel safe. That's the kind of connection I want. The kind I've learned from my brothers in BTS, from the rare nights when we just sit around and talk about life, not music, not fame, just existence. Those moments are the most human ones I know. Yoongi once told me that people mistake solitude for sadness. He said, "Being alone isn't bad, Jungkook, but feeling alone while surrounded by people, that's what hurts." He was right. I've had nights when millions of people were talking about me online, yet I felt invisible. because none of that fills the space inside you that only presence can. That's the space I hope marriage can touch, not to fix it, but to share it. Sometimes I think about how much we hide in the name of being strong, how many emotions we swallow because we don't want to look weak. But love, real love, asks you to be weak, to be honest, to admit you're scared, jealous, tired, insecure. That's something I'm still learning, because for most of my life, I've been rewarded for control, for perfection. But marriage isn't control, it's surrender. It's choosing to let someone see all the things you keep hidden, even from yourself. When I look at my hyungs, I see how each of them has a different relationship with silence. Namjoon finds peace in it. Yoongi makes art out of it. Jin fills it with laughter. Hoseok lights it up with joy. Taehyung lets it stretch until it feels like a painting. And Jimin meets silence like it's a friend. He listens to it, learns from it. I'm still learning how. But maybe that's what love is, learning how to be quiet with someone without feeling alone. I think about the day I'll get married, and I wonder if I'll be ready to show all these parts of me. The flaws, the doubts, the nights when I overthink everything. I want to believe that by then I'll have learned enough about love to stay open, even when it's hard. Because if I've learned anything from BTS, it's that love grows strongest when it's tested. When we fight, when we forgive, when we come back, even after breaking, that's what makes it real. There was a time when I thought love would distract me from my purpose. Now I think it's the only thing that gives purpose meaning. What's the point of building everything if you have no one to share it with? What's the point of success if it costs you peace? I've been blessed with so much more than I ever imagined, but I don't want to end up like the version of myself who thought achievement was enough. I want to be the man who learns to stay, to listen, to love fully without fear. When I get married, I don't want the world to see it as a fairy tale. I want them to see it as growth, as healing, as a man learning how to finally live outside the spotlight. And I hope when that day comes, the people who followed my journey will understand that this isn't me walking away. It's me walking home. The truth is, I don't know what kind of husband I'll be. I don't know if I'll be romantic or awkward, serious or playful, but I know one thing. I'll try, I'll show up, I'll learn. I'll fail sometimes, but I'll keep choosing love even when it's uncomfortable. Because love isn't a moment, it's a practice. It's waking up every day and saying, I'm here. And when I get married, I hope this message reminds you fame is temporary, applause fades, but the people who see you, the ones who stay when the noise stops, they are the real success. So if you remember this message years from now, don't remember it as an announcement or a confession. Remember it as a promise to live truthfully, a promise to love without fear, a promise to keep showing up even when the world moves on, because that's what I'll be doing too. Forgiveness is a word that used to scare me. It sounded like weakness, like letting people off the hook for hurting you. But as I've grown, I've realized forgiveness isn't about others, it's about you. It's about not carrying what's already over. It's about setting yourself free. I've spent so much time being hard on myself, replaying mistakes, conversations, things I should have said differently. Every time I thought I was forgiving someone else, I was really trying to learn how to forgive myself. I think that's one of the hardest parts of fame that people don't see. You get used to living under a microscope, and before long, you start judging yourself the same way. You begin measuring your heart by how the world reacts. And even when the world claps for you, you can still feel small inside. That's when you realize that validation isn't the same as peace. They can cheer your name all night, but when you close the door, you're still left with your thoughts. And those thoughts, they remember everything. When I imagine being married one day, I don't see perfection. I see honesty. I see someone who can look at me when I mess up and still say, I'm not leaving. I want to build a home where mistakes don't destroy love, they deepen it. Because real love doesn't pretend you're flawless. It holds you while you try to do better. I learned a lot about that kind of love from the members. We've seen each other at our best and our absolute worst. We have shouted, cried, disagreed, said things we didn't mean. But through all of that, we stayed. That's forgiveness. It's not erasing what happened. It's choosing to move forward anyway. There were nights we barely talked, mornings that felt heavy, days where our bond was quiet but present. Looking back, those were the moments that made us brothers. Not the stages, not the cameras, the hard moments that required grace. Jimin once told me, "You don't have to earn love from the people who truly know you." I didn't fully understand that then, but now I do. Love isn't a prize for being good. It's an embrace for being human. And maybe that's what I want. Marriage to be a safe place to be human. A place where we don't have to perform strength every day. I've made peace with the fact that I'm not always going to get it right. There will be times I forget to say the right words, times I let fear win, times I disappear into my own head. But I hope when that happens, I'll remember what the guys taught me: come back. Always come back. Because love isn't about never leaving, it's about returning again and again. Sometimes I think about the fans too, about how much forgiveness they've given me without even realizing it. You've watched me grow, fail, change, struggle, and you stayed. You saw me trying to find myself through all the noise, and you didn't give up on me. That's love in its purest form. And I want to give that same kind of grace to my future family. The patience you gave me, I want to pass it on. There's something healing about admitting your flaws out loud. For so long, I thought I had to protect my image, that showing weakness would make people lose faith in me. But it's the opposite. People don't connect to perfection. They connect to truth. And the truth is, I'm still figuring it out. Every day I wake up and try to be a better man, a better friend, a better son, a better version of myself. And I fail, but I keep trying because that's what love is trying. I remember one night after rehearsal, Jungkook sat beside me and said, "You know, you don't have to fix everything. Some things just need you to listen." That hit me hard because I've always been the type to want to fix, to solve, to make everything perfect again. But sometimes people don't need solutions. They just need you to be there, to listen, to hold, to stay. That's something I hope I can carry into marriage. The ability to stay even when I can't fix it. Namjoon once told me that forgiveness is the most mature kind of love. It's not loud, it's steady. It doesn't ask for proof, it offers peace. When I look back at my younger self, the boy who thought love was about grand gestures, I want to tell him this. Love is not loud. It's consistent. It's showing up quietly day after day, even when it's not easy. I think that's what coming home to yourself really means. It's not about isolating from the world. It's about finding the version of you that can stand in the quiet and feel safe there. For years, I filled my silence with noise, music, work, people, anything to avoid being alone with my thoughts. But now, I see that love grows in silence. That's where you hear the truth. That's where you see who you are without the applause. Marriage, to me, isn't just a promise between two people. It's a mirror. It reflects everything you hide, everything you avoid, everything you need to heal. And I think I'm finally brave enough to face that reflection. To look at myself and not just see the idol, the performer, the achiever, but the person. The imperfect, emotional, messy person who just wants to love and be loved in return. If I could talk to my younger self, I'd tell him not to be afraid of stillness. I tell him that the quiet moments are not empty, they're sacred. That it's okay to slow down, to feel, to rest. Because you can't build love if you never stop long enough to let it find you. When I get married, I don't want to lose myself in the idea of perfection. I want to wake up every morning knowing I'm enough and that she's enough. Just as we are. No filters, no fear, no performances, just presence, forgiveness, vulnerability, presence. Those are the things that matter most now. They're the things I want to carry with me long after the lights fade. And when that day comes, when you see me standing beside the person I love, I hope you remember that this moment didn't come from perfection, it came from healing. Because love isn't about finding someone who completes you. It's about finding someone who reminds you you were never broken to begin with. Loyalty is something I've always believed in, but lately I've been thinking about what it really means. It's easy to say you're loyal when things are simple, when everyone's smiling and the world feels light. But real loyalty, the kind that lasts, isn't tested in good times. It's tested when everything feels uncertain, when people change, when silence grows louder than words. I've seen loyalty in ways most people never get to. I've seen it in the members, how we stayed when it would have been easier to walk away, how we argued, doubted, burned out, and still showed up again the next morning. I've seen it in the fans who kept believing even when we didn't release new music, who defended us when we weren't there to explain ourselves. Loyalty is love that stays after the excitement fades. It's love that chooses again and again, even when it's quiet, even when it's hard. That's what I want in marriage. Not perfection, not constant fireworks, just loyalty. The kind that stands still when the world shakes. The kind that whispers, I'm here, even when there's nothing else to say. Because the truth is, people change. We grow, we evolve, we learn, we make mistakes. But loyalty isn't about staying the same, it's about staying connected through the change. Sometimes I think about growing old. It's not something I used to let myself imagine. For a long time, I thought my life would always be loud stages, music, movement, never-ending motion. But now, I dream about stillness. About mornings where I wake up next to someone and we don't rush anywhere. About afternoons spent cooking instead of rehearsing. About evenings that end in conversation instead of sound checks. And when I think about growing old, I don't picture fame. I picture loyalty. Someone beside me who's seen every version of me and still chooses to stay. I think about my parents again. They've loved each other quietly for decades. No cameras, no applause. Just everyday moments, sharing meals, small talk, laughter that no one else will ever hear. That's what real love looks like. It's not perfect, but it's consistent, it's steady, it's home. And sometimes I wonder if that's what I've been chasing all along. Maybe the stage was just the loud version of what I've always wanted, a connection that never fades. There's a moment that sticks in my mind from a few years back. We were on tour somewhere in Europe. Everyone was tired, nerves were high, pressure was heavy. I remember Taehyung sitting across from me, looking at the rest of us and saying softly, "We don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep trusting each other." It sounded so simple then, but it was the most powerful truth. Trust, that's the heartbeat of loyalty. Without it, love becomes fear. With it, even silence feels safe. When I think about marriage, I think about that kind of trust. The kind that doesn't need constant reassurance because it's already proven. The kind where even distance doesn't break the connection. I've had to learn that loyalty isn't about possession, it's about presence. It's not saying you belong to me. It's saying I'm with you even when I don't have control. Growing old doesn't scare me anymore. What scares me is growing old without meaning. I don't want to look back one day and realize I gave everything to my work, but forgot to build something lasting outside of it. I want to build memories that don't need headlines to matter. I want to build a love that doesn't need an audience to feel real. There's a song that we sang once for youth. I remember singing it with the guys, looking out at Army, and feeling something shift inside me. The lyrics weren't just about our fans. They were about time, about gratitude, about holding on to what's real as everything changes. I think about that song whenever I imagine my future, because no matter what happens, no matter where life takes us, that sense of loyalty, that for youth feeling will always be part of who I am. Marriage to me feels like another version of that song. It's promising to stay even when the melody changes. It's standing beside someone through the off-key moments, through the silence between notes. It's knowing that life won't always sound beautiful, but choosing to sing together anyway. I wonder sometimes if people truly understand what loyalty costs. It's not glamorous. It's not romantic all the time. It requires patience, forgiveness, humility. It means letting go of pride and choosing peace over being right. It means listening when you want to speak. It means loving even when it's not convenient. And I think the only reason I understand that now is because of BTS, because of how we've weathered everything together. Because I've seen what staying looks like. I think about Jimin often when I think of loyalty. He's the kind of person who loves with his whole heart, even when it hurts. He doesn't give halfway. He gives completely. There were times I took that for granted. Times when I was distant, caught up in work, chasing something else. But Jimin never stopped showing up, even when I didn't deserve it. That's loyalty. Not because it's easy, but because it's who he is. And I've learned from that. That love doesn't always need to be loud to be strong. Sometimes the quiet ones are the ones that last forever. When I imagine growing old, I imagine still being surrounded by the people who taught me these lessons. The members, the fans, my family, and hopefully someone who calls me home. I don't want to lose any of that. I want to carry it with me into every new chapter. Because loyalty isn't about where you are, it's about who you bring with you. And when the day comes that I'm no longer performing, no longer chasing numbers or charts, I hope I'm somewhere peaceful, still learning, still loving, still grateful. I hope I can look back and know that I didn't just build a legacy, I built relationships that lasted longer than any song could. If you remember anything from this message, remember this. Loyalty is love that doesn't need proof. It's love that stays. And when I get married, that's the kind of love I want to live by. The kind that doesn't fade with time, doesn't change with fame, doesn't need to be seen to be real. Because that's the kind of love that outlives everything. Time moves differently when you live in the spotlight. It's strange one day you're 17 and full of dreams, and the next you're 28 wondering where all those years went. Every tour, every album, every flight blurs into this endless motion that feels like forever until you stop and realize how much you've missed. Sometimes I look back at old photos, the early days, the messy dorms, our tired smiles, and I can't believe how young we were. It feels like another lifetime, and in some ways, it was. There's this quiet fear that follows me sometimes, the fear of being forgotten. Not by fans, not by the world, but by the people who truly matter. Because fame fades. No matter how high you rise, the lights eventually dim. And when that happens, you start asking different questions. Not how many people are watching, but who will still call me when no one else does? That question hits harder the older I get. Because time doesn't wait, and neither do people. If you don't show up, they move on. That's not bitterness, it's just how life works. I've spent so many years building something the world could see. But now I think about building something the world can't. Peace, family, roots. When I get married, I want to slow time down. I want to live days that don't need to be remembered because they're already fulfilling while they're happening. I want mornings that smell like coffee and quiet evenings that end with laughter and no deadline. I want to be present enough to remember the sound of my wife's voice, the rhythm of her steps, the way love feels in the small things. Sometimes I catch myself wondering what kind of man I'll be when the noise stops. When I'm not Jungkook from BTS anymore, just Jungkook, a husband, a son, maybe a father. I used to think that losing fame would mean losing identity. But now I see it differently. Maybe that's when I'll finally find myself. Because fame teaches you how to be seen. Love teaches you how to stay. And I think I'm ready to learn how to stay. Namjoon once said something to me that I never forgot. We were walking by the Han River one night, just talking about everything, life, music, purpose. He said, the thing about time is that it never really goes away. It lives inside the people who remember you. That stayed with me. Because maybe we never really disappear. Maybe we just keep living through the people we've touched. Through memories, through love, through the moments that felt too small to matter but actually meant everything. I think about that whenever I see the fans' army growing up, building their own lives, their own families. Some of them bring their kids to concerts now, and when I see that, I realize time isn't stealing from us, it's giving. It's showing me what lasts. The connection, the energy, the understanding that even if the world changes, the love doesn't vanish. It just takes new shapes. I used to be terrified of getting older. I thought it meant losing relevance, losing spark, losing everything I'd worked for. But now I think growing older is a blessing. It means I get to live long enough to understand what really matters. It means I get to experience life beyond the stage, to hold someone's hand, not because it's a performance, but because it's love. To sing, not because I have to, but because I want to wake up, not to a schedule, but to peace. There's this thought that comes to me sometimes late at night. What if the greatest thing I ever create isn't music, but a life well lived? What if the real masterpiece isn't an album, but a family built on honesty and kindness? I want to believe that when I'm gone, people won't just remember the shows or the records, they'll remember the love. The way I treated people, the way I made them feel, because that's what time can't erase. I think about my future wife when I think about all this. How I want her to feel seen, not overshadowed. How I want her to know that even though I've belonged to the world for so long, my heart belongs somewhere quiet with her. I don't want to love her as an idol. I want to love her as a man who's learned the value of time, the beauty of imperfection, the gift of staying. I want her to know that even when everything else fades, I'll still choose her in every moment that remains. Sometimes I wonder how BTS will look in 30 years. Maybe we'll all be gray-haired, laughing about the chaos we once lived through. Maybe we'll meet each other's families, talk about life instead of lyrics. Maybe we'll still sing sometimes not for fame but for fun. And when I picture that, it doesn't make me sad. It makes me grateful. Because it means we made it, not just as artists, but as people. Time used to feel like an enemy. Now it feels like a reminder that everything beautiful is temporary, and that's what makes it beautiful. You can't hold on to the moment, but you can live inside it fully. That's what I want to do when I get married. I want to live inside the moments, not chase them. I want to look back one day and know that I didn't waste time trying to be timeless. I spent it trying to be true. If you're watching this right now, maybe you're afraid of time too. Afraid of change. Afraid of losing the things that once defined you. I get it. But here's what I've learned. Time doesn't take from you. It gives you the chance to see what's real. It strips away what's shallow until all that's left is truth. And truth that's love. So when I get married, I don't want people to remember me as the boy who sang or the man who performed. I want to be remembered as someone who lived, who loved honestly, who forgave easily, who learned to let go when holding on hurt too much, and who stayed when it mattered most. Because in the end, time will erase the noise, the lights, the applause, but it won't erase the love. That's the only thing that lives forever. And when that day comes, when you see me walking down that aisle, older, quieter, maybe not the same Jungkook you knew, just remember this. Time didn't change me. It revealed me. I've been thinking a lot about what legacy really means. Not the kind people write about in articles or documentaries, but the kind that quietly lingers in the people you love. For years, I thought legacy was about leaving something big behind music that lasts forever. Achievements no one could forget. But lately, I'm starting to see it differently. Maybe legacy isn't about what you built. Maybe it's about who you become while you're building it. If one day I'm not here anymore, I don't want people to remember me for my records or my trophies. I want them to remember that I tried to be kind, that I tried to be honest, that I tried to love the people around me fully even when I didn't know how. I want to be remembered not for the perfection of my voice, but for the times I spoke the truth, even when my voice shook. When I think about death, and I do, sometimes it's not about fear. It's about clarity. It makes everything real. You start realizing how fragile everything is. How one day the music will stop, the lights will fade, and what's left is what you gave from your heart. That's why I say, remember this message. Because it's not a goodbye, it's a reminder that the moments you give to love, to kindness, to truth are the only ones that survive you. I imagine growing old, maybe gray-haired, sitting on a porch somewhere, watching the sunset with someone I love. I imagine my members coming over, joking about how we used to look, how wild it all was. I imagine laughter echoing through the air, our kids playing our lives simpler, but still connected. That's the legacy I want. The continuation of love, the proof that everything we built together didn't end with fame, it grew into family. Sometimes I wonder how people will remember BTS. Will they think of the records, the concerts, the music videos, or will they remember the feeling, the energy that made them feel understood, the comfort in knowing they weren't alone? I hope it's the feeling, because that's what stays. People forget what you did, but they never forget how you made them feel. I think about each member when I think of legacy. Namjoon will be remembered for his wisdom, for the way he carried meaning in everything he said. Yoongi will be remembered for his honesty, for showing that vulnerability is strength. Jin will be remembered for his laughter, for how he made even hard days brighter. Hoseok will be remembered for his light, his warmth that reached everyone he met. Taehyung will be remembered for his art, his stillness, his way of making silence beautiful. And Jimin, he'll be remembered for his heart, for the way he loved without limits, for how he never stopped believing in people. And maybe me, I'll be remembered for giving everything I had to the things I loved, even when it cost me. Sometimes I write letters to myself, not for the world, not for anyone else, just me. I write about what I've learned, what I've lost, what I'm grateful for, and every time I end up writing the same thing, don't forget to live. Because it's easy to get so caught up in building your future that you forget you're already in the middle of it. When I get married, I want that to be my living legacy. I want my marriage to show that love doesn't have to be perfect to be true. That it's okay to fall and get back up. That it's okay to start over again and again, as long as you keep choosing each other. I want my children, if I have them, to know that it's okay to chase dreams. But it's even more important to stay grounded. That success means nothing without presence. That the people you love are your greatest achievement. There's a question that lives in the back of my mind sometimes. When all of this ends, who will I be without it? And the more I think about it, the more peace I find. Because I know that BTS isn't just a chapter, it's the foundation. Everything I am today, everything I'll be tomorrow, is built on what we've created together. And even when we're old and the stages are behind us, the bond will remain. We'll still call each other, still laugh, still take care of one another. That's legacy. Not the songs, not the fame, the love. I remember one night, Jimin and I talked about this exact thing. We were looking at the stars, just quiet for a while. Then he said, even if one day nobody remembers the name BTS, we'll still know who we were. That's enough. And he was right. It is enough. Because love doesn't need recognition. It just needs to be real. So when I think about mortality, about the day when I'm no longer here, I don't want sadness. I want peace. I want people to know that I lived fully, that I loved fiercely, that I forgave quickly, that I made mistakes, but I tried to learn from them, that I gave my all to music, to my brothers, to my fans, to life itself, and that I left nothing unsaid. When I get married, that's what I'll be celebrating. Not just love, but life.